There are a lot of non-technical roles within cybersecurity. There's obviously a lot of technical roles, but a lot of the non-technical roles really revolve around the business and strategy with respect to cybersecurity. So I'll kind of break this apart in a couple different ways. The first is that most large organizations have a pretty robust cybersecurity practice. So they have a security operations manager, they might have a SOC, they have different people in third-party risk management. They've got folks in identity and trust, and the list goes on. But there's also a strategic tier to how they look at adopting technology and how they look at categories of risk. And so those roles are kind of, I would consider, crossover into non-technical in a lot of respects. And then when you get into the industry side of it, which is really very much what my background is, and then in terms of what we're discussing throughout the coursework, is that when you think about the industry of cybersecurity, what we're really talking about is we're talking about an industry of over 3,000 companies. And these 3,000 companies actually have, their job is to create cybersecurity technologies, products, software, hardware, and services. And they sell these products to their customers. And those customers are traditionally those large organizations, not all large organizations, there's also medium size and small. But the point being is that this is called enterprise software or enterprise security. And so when you think about the nature of these companies that are the 3,000, the industry side of cybersecurity that creates solutions, there are a ton of jobs in these companies that are not at all technical in nature. They have operations, finance, marketing, even, and when you get into some of the more, let's say, for instance, you have a technical background. A lot of folks look to transition into what's called systems engineering, where you're kind of in a quasi role where you actually go and help a salesperson go close deals with customers. And by doing that, you're creating value for the business and you're growing revenue for the business. That person in that technical role that maybe, like, for instance, was an IT manager before, the transition, one of the things we teach is the transition from that technical kind of what I consider IT management or just general IT into the transition into systems engineering within cybersecurity companies. And then the non-technical roles, there's just a ton. I mean, if you think about, typically the CEO is not technical, the COO is typically not technical. And so you have a lot of these technical roles. The sales team, the business development team, these are non-technical roles in a lot of respects. So you can come into these roles with a varied background. Well, one of the reasons that there's a big demand in cybersecurity for non-technical individuals, and this is not a lot of people know this, is that when you think about cybersecurity, what are we talking about? We're talking about the ability to defend against hackers. And what are hackers? They're creative, they're technical in nature in many respects. But that being said, when you think about, for instance, how to counter a lot of the risk that hackers contribute towards, one of the big areas of growth that a lot of people talk about, or a lot of people are starting to really uncover, is psychology. Having a basis in psychology actually is a good background for cybersecurity in many respects. Being able to apply the way different thinking is used, I guess you could say, and understand intention and human behavior is absolutely something that's valued in this field. And I think so. There's a perfect example of a non-technical discipline of where that skill set is valued in cybersecurity. And then go further. I mean, when you think about the solution side of technology, somebody's got to sell this software. Somebody's got to sell these products to corporations or to government agencies. They don't just sell themselves. And so you have to get out there, build relationships, get to know your buyers, get to know your partners, and establish that footing. And in order to do that, that's typically a non-technical background. It doesn't mean that you can't come from a technical background, certainly you can. I've helped many transition from a technical background into these types of roles. But that being said, you don't have to start out with a technical background to do what I just described to you. And those roles, if you just look at 3,000 companies, you can very quickly go and do your research on who those companies are. Look at their website, see if they're hiring, go network and evangelize, use LinkedIn and other tools to be able to build relationships. There's a demand in the field for non-technical folks to be involved in cybersecurity, certainly. Well, I think what I've seen is the types of skills that are necessary to succeed in these non-technical roles are really the types of skills that I guess you could say soft skills, they say, where you have the ability to communicate well. You're able to communicate complexity and then make it sound simple, right? So that's one aspect. Relationship building, just like anything, but building relationships, having the ability to understand and navigate an organization, the structure, the politics, the people, the personalities, and then also the intents of the people that want to buy technology and utilize it, and what are they really trying to solve. And so that's, when you think through that, that's strategic thinking. And I think those are the types of skill sets. So soft skills, strategic thinking, and certainly even psychology. I mentioned that a bit ago, that psychology is actually a quite a useful field for cybersecurity. There are plenty of folks that I've worked with that do not have a technical background that have come into cybersecurity that I've either mentored directly, or they've taken our program or our course over the years, or I've worked with in the field. And to give you some examples of that, I mean, I can go way back in the early days. One of the individuals I worked with just came out of the Army. He was an Army Ranger. He had no experience whatsoever in technology, but I saw something in him that indicated to me that he was driven. And obviously, if you're a Ranger, you probably are driven. But he had kind of a mission mindedness, so he had a work ethic and he was going to work at it. And people, he was likable by people. And I think that right away that struck me. And so I helped him get into the field and get him a few interviews. He nailed it. He got the job. And ever since, he's gone on his way. He's done a great job. He's a vice president of a cybersecurity company at this point. That's one example of an individual. Another individual came out of a conservatory school and had no training whatsoever in cybersecurity, but was absolutely passionate to get into this field. And ended up taking the course, and just probably the best student I've ever had. Went through the course, really studied it, just focused, and kept coming back to me with questions. You could tell you could see his progress in the course and the platform that we were running. And sure enough, 6 months later, he ended up getting a job in cybersecurity, and I just ran into him, and he's literally extremely happy. This was his dream come true. There's others. I mean, I can tell you about a girl that I worked with that had a biology background, and she worked in a laboratory, and she wasn't interested in doing that anymore. And I can understand that. It would be hard for me to be interested in doing that. But what she noticed was that her interests were more in kind of the getting out there, meeting people, building relationships, and those types of things. And sure enough, I mentored her, and she ended up getting into the field of cybersecurity and working for a cybersecurity founder, and helped build that company, landed all the first accounts, and was very successful. Had no degree in technology, had a degree in science and a background in science. So yeah, those are just a few, but there's many folks that I've worked with. There's folks that have come out of the military. There's folks that have come out of other careers. There's folks that even transition from one technical role to, let's say, a technical, let's say a certain type of technical role into a non-technical cybersecurity role where you're working with clients and things like that. And so I've worked with a gamut of different folks to see, and I can tell you firsthand that there's a lot of room and opportunity in this field that extends far beyond just what most people think, where you need to go get a certification, you need a 4-year degree. That's not accurate. One of the little secrets that a lot of people don't realize, and this is something that you would have to be in the field to know, is that a lot of times, pretty much all the time, the non-technical roles in the cybersecurity industry compensate better than the technical roles by, in some cases, leaps and bounds. You're talking about the potential for a couple $100,000 difference in some scenarios. And so that's a big deal. And so a lot of folks that are in the industry, or let's just say even in the technical side of cybersecurity, are interested in transitioning into the business side and the sales side and the business development side, because they know that there's just a lot more money there to be made by far. And that's a little secret in the industry. Not a lot of people know. You get what the world teaches us is that you go to college, you get these certifications in cybersecurity, and you'll see all these ads out there for like $100,000 a year job. Well, times that by 3 or 4 in many cases in the business side. And that's the thing that not a lot of people know about. They're not teaching you that in school, and they're certainly not teaching you that in the certification programs.